Okay. One, I'm feeling much better. Thanks for asking. And we're back with Selene Apoptosis. I still don't know how to pronounce that, and I'm not looking up how it's pronounced. I'm feeling much better. I thought it was weird because I've been playing Garden of Banban 2. Every time I played it, it's just in a miserable state. Not because of the game, because of outside things. And I just thought that was funny. But I'm kind of swapping between the two until I'm done with them, and then I'm going to go back to random repeating horror games. This is enough of that. I think we're starting to really get to some really interesting bits in here. So let's just roll right in. Okay. The concave muzzle of Persian cats stared back at him all that was required of Ethan. He had to call the cattery. So this is after the fighting makeup stuff. Okay. A simple task, but Ethan hesitated. It was hard for him to get used to the idea of one of these pop-eyed creatures walking around their apartment. During the day, it will nap where it pleases. At night, sneak into the kitchen to play with shadows that move by themselves. And its eyes will turn into 2 saucers of black and green nacre if the light reaches them. Alright. Ancient people believed cats could walk between worlds and see spirits. Looking at Persians, that seems a little racist. Ethan hardly believed they could even breathe on their own. And yet in this, Ethan Harrison from the 21st century agreed with the ancient people. There was something sinister about them. In any case, he should call the cattery, for Hope's sake. For the sake of them both, since he had made the decision. Ethan had already picked up the phone and was about to proceed with the plan when he heard the key turn in the entrance door. Something about that wound him. Wound, not wound. Wound him up. It was barely 5 o'clock in the evening, which was in any way very early for Hope to be back. If everything was fine, that is. Ethan closed his laptop, went out into the hallway. For a long time he couldn't say a single word, and when he could speak again, he only managed one question. What have you done? What? Hope's smile faded for the first time in 4.5 or even 5 years. They've been a couple. Ethan was glad of it. Oh. And the fact there was nothing surprising about it. As with the new haircut, the new hair color, Hope looked unbearably, insanely similar to the creature at the window. Hope's lips turned white, trembling. This didn't help, did it? Any of it? You can't love me even now, right? What are you talking about? Isn't it obvious? I see how you look at me. You're disgusted. You try your best to touch me as little as possible. And no matter what I do, no matter what I try, it doesn't help. Admit it, you never loved her. You didn't, right, Ethan? She was convenient. And that's about it. Shit makes the flowers grow. Your flowers grow so much, didn't they, Ethan? Didn't they? Oh my God. Ethan would never hit his wife. More than that, he would never hit a woman. But what spoke to him was neither his wife nor a woman. It was a nightmare incarnate that bared its long, sharp teeth and came to take away his rights for a second chance. Or so Ethan thought at the time. He punched her? Oh no. The punch turned out somewhat pathetic. But you have to take into account the wife beating is not a fairground attraction. When you hit your wife properly, a mark does not fly up to highlight sign good one. No, it does not. Although this was only indirectly related to the early Renaissance, Ethan had expertise in the matter since his old man's fist used to inch often. If there was something like that, he would know. However, if any sign could light up the moment, it would say something like, "You're a scum, Ethan." Yeah. No. He kept repeating that even after Hope stormed out of the door in tears. Well, this just escalated so quickly. Oh, God, I knew we were getting into the juicy stuff, but what's happening? Ethan barely remembered the following few days. Something seemed to be happening. Some people called him. He himself called a lot. He called Hope. Hope wasn't answering the phone. He knew this would happen. Every time he dialed her number, he knew he'll end up listening to the voicemail signal. It became something of a ritual. He would wake up sometimes it was light outside, sometimes dark. But more often it was something gray he neither could nor would want to identify because of the drawn curtains. He called Hope. Hope wouldn't answer the phone. He would go to the kitchen, turn the water on. He'd watch the silvery twisted stream break against the sink for a while. Eventually, he put a cup under the stream, filled it to the brim. Drink. Go to the bathroom. Back to the couch. It's too bad to be true. All of this can't be real. Life can't crumble into pieces in an instant, just collapse inwards like a wooden block tower. Ethan couldn't remember the name of that game. Once he and Hope went to sea. He and Hope. It's too bad. All this can't be real. He didn't do anything. Could it be that he didn't do anything? No. He hit Hope. He hit her, and a red spot spread across her cheek. It was too dark to see, but Ethan knew how it goes. How could he do that? What happens now? What can happen now? These thoughts were a little bunch of needles he tried to swallow over and over. Sometimes he managed to briefly forget about them. It would happen when he woke up in the gray timelessness, looked at the dirty white ceiling, didn't remember who that Ethan Harrison was. But the pain would come back. He had a bunch of needles in his throat, and no matter how much water he drank, he couldn't get rid of it. This got really depressing. Hope's father shook him up a little bit. Not in the sense he could have done it, grabbing a hold of him, lifting off the ground. Hope's father was a tough guy, and despite his age, he could have hit Ethan hard. Ethan was afraid of it, and at the same time he wanted it to happen. That would have made everything easier, maybe even fixed it all. Ethan was going over it in his head as he stared at the phone screen, displaying a familiar number. He was awfully scared, yet he answered. It turned out Hope had asked her father to pack up for her. Mr. Maryland's voice was flat, maybe even a bit uncertain. And worst of all, he wasn't angry. This plunged Ethan into despair. He couldn't get his redemption like this. However, upcoming visit forced Ethan to gain his senses. It shoved him back into reality like a stream of people pushing one into a crowded subway train. He tidied up the place a bit. He shaved. He figured out what to say. Several times he rehearsed his speech in front of the mirror. And just before Mr. Muriel's arrived, Ethan left the keys with the neighbors. Simply put up, he fled. Of course, he warned Mr. Muriel's beforehand with a message because he didn't have the heart to call. Ethan wanted Mr. to pick up what he had to and get out as soon as possible. This Mr. guy wasn't going to help. Why do you... Muriel's? Why can't you... There's fictional characters. Why can't you call him Mr. Smith? That's for sure. Wasn't going to help, which meant he simply got between Ethan and his wife. Ethan was angry with... I'm calling him Mr. Smith now. Like he was the source of all the trouble. Anger was boiling up inside of him, mixing with cheap coffee and turning into caustic acid. There was nothing rational about this feeling. Ethan had plenty of time to think about it, to weigh it, to examine it under a magnifying glass. Oof. This is getting dark. He was sitting in a small cafe on the corner of the street till it got dark. He would have stayed there even longer if a waiter hadn't come to his table to tell the place was closing. Ethan nodded absently and asked for a moment to use the bathroom. Again, there was nothing rational about being angry with Mr. Smith. And to be honest, it was pathetic. Just like hitting your wife and then running away not to face her father. You're scum, Ethan. Worthless scum. Ethan turned off the tab and stared at his reflection in a large mirror. A few drops of water trembled on the tip of his nose and chin. Now that was a proper punch. Waiter, sir, I'm sorry, but sir, are you okay? You have blood ooze from his split lip. Ethan wiped it with the back of his hand. Yes, I'm fine. Sorry, I didn't mean to keep you. He smiled. The fresh wound got swollen with blood again. A red blot spread across his face, just as it should. This is not going well. Something changed. Ethan didn't lie to the waiter. The Secrets of Anatomy. Sample 1. Sample 2. It's all tomato soup. What the fuck? The screaming man is hiding here, Duchess. God, what is this game? Happy Dreamland. Mary is a lamb, Johnny is a tree, and who's a little liar? Hi, I love you. Happy Dream, a quiz? The Science for Kids Secret of Anatomy. Good grief. Nothing else changed, right? He really was fine. Maybe not in the same manner as before, but the gears in his head were starting to move again. When he got home, Mr. Smith had already left. Turned out that he didn't even take the keys from the neighbor. At first, Ethan assumed Mr. Smith could cancel the visit, but as soon as he opened the door, his doubts disappeared. A strong, unfamiliar scent was filling the hallway. It could have been Mr. Smith's cologne, of maybe the smell of the apartment itself with Hope's presence faded away. Mr. Smith must have taken his daughter's keys. Somehow the possibility never crossed Ethan's mind before. He drew the air through his nostril and suddenly, as sharp and clear as in that dream, he had days ago something was going to happen. Ethan looked around the empty dark room and reached for the phone. Was it to perform the ritual, or was he hoping something would go different this time? Short beeps. Ethan thought it was safe to say something was already happening. He only had to figure out what and where. Something had changed in the picture, and it's not that Hope's favorite blouse is missing from the closet. If you find the differences, you win. If you find the differences, you'll know where the gears are taking you. Oh no. The hallway. Oh, that's not. Don't. The pot-bellied bowels on the dress fully gibberished in dust. The kitchen. I don't like this. Oh, I don't like this. An uneven row of glass jars on the shelf, an empty coffee maker bearing dry blackness at the bottom, spoons, forks, and knives, some of them really sharp. The bathroom, a mirror on the wall that would reflect the closed doors opened. No, not here. What about? Ethan licked his split lip. Yes, that's it. He has to check his email now.